loser. That's one big problem with like at least popular Canadian stuff.
Yeah.
It's all these 30 and 40-year-olds trying to be cool like a 20-year-old. I don't mind saying that. I think Kenny is all those guys. They're fooling.
And the fact that they have got money for their shows and that they essentially have fooled all these people is so indicative of the problem in this country or anywhere with this type of, with comedy anyway. You should never laugh at a 35-year-old guy under any circumstances. If you're watching like a guy, no, I should say 35 is fine, a 40-year-old guy, unless that's his act. He's like David Letterman and he's like, oh wow, what a statesman. That's funny. But if it's some guy trying to be like goofy and funny and he's at the same time 40, you need to dismiss that person. You need to be like, wait a minute, for the greater good of this society and myself and all my friends, I'm going to be like, this guy, you are a phony and a loser. And I'm going to spread the word with people like that.
But, I mean, I can see that, but what about, like, for an older demographic? I mean, that's what, like...
That's fine. But Kenny and Spenny, or any comedians, or any up-and-coming people, they don't say, I'm going to capture the older demographic. Yeah. The older demographic in Canada is locked down. That's never going to change. The older demographic in this country will always love Rick Mercer until he's dead, and there's another Rick Mercer or another whoever who's just like, oh well, just like palatable Canadian content. That is not the problem, because older people are going to watch TV all the time anyway. But people who come up and they're like, oh, we're gonna capture the 20-something university students and they're gonna love us. That just doesn't exist in this country. It all sucks. It all sucks because there's no. This gets to what I think is the main problem, and that's that there are no 20-something-year-old content producers making stuff for 20-year-olds officially. It's all unofficial stuff. It's all like illegal stuff on the internet, or it's comedy shows at bars. Even those suck. Like there is no, that world doesn't exist. It's all 30-year-olds making stuff that they say will be cool for 20-year-olds or teenagers.
And why is that? Just because the
people giving the money are 40-year-olds who have already gone through that and have already. It's this structure where it's like in your 20s, they make it so that you have to. Ugh, it's so sad. When you're 20 years old trying to work at this, they just make it so you fail over and over and over and over again, and they'll never produce your stuff. And so then you're a 30-year-old loser. And then like, okay, we'll work with you. Look at how pathetic you are, Kenny Hotz. You poor, pathetic fool. Yeah, sure, you've had the life beaten out of you by Telefilm. You are perfect for Telefilm. And so they fund his show. Oh my God.
I think a big part of it too is like having a boss. You know what I mean? I mean, and that's what...
You think a problem with Canadian filmmaking is that people have bosses?
No. I just think like if you look at television, you look at what you guys did, for example. There's no way you could have made
that with a boss. We had that exact experience actually when we finished our show and we started making a pilot with like an offshoot of Serendipity Films. That was the first time we'd ever had to answer to producers, and it was awful. It was hell. It would be like. I'll speak about comedy because I think it's different than doing like drama where you got to think about stupid stuff and But when you're doing comedy and it's like, oh man, I got a really funny idea for a joke, or you shoot something that you think is funny. As soon as you have to show it to like somebody in their mid-30s or 40s, like that moment of being like, here, look, what do you think? Do you think this is funny? And having them watch it, and even if they laugh, even if they like it, you've ruined it. No matter what, and especially if they laugh. If your stuff is making 40-year-old people laugh, pack up. You're done. There's no way that you are in any way culturally relevant if your stuff is appealing to 40-year-old executives in this country. Which is so sick, because the only way you can make anything that will ever be seen, like apart from stuff you do by yourself on the internet, is if you get 40-year-old executives to laugh. Which is sick. Which is, I think, the big problem with everything. Every meeting I've had with people, oh, this is going to burn so many bridges for me, but I don't care. What are they going to do to me? Every meeting I've ever had has always been across the table from like these 40-year-old men or women who just clearly are not funny. They're not funny people. They're funny like with like their frat buddies when they're drunk, or maybe with their wives. Do you know what I mean? They consider themselves a funny person, but they're not funny. And you're sitting there trying to be like, this will be funny, and convince them that it will be funny. And you know in your heart that if they say, yeah, that sounds funny, it's not funny. And so you need to pitch them on this that you think is funny, knowing that they're going to say it's not funny, and that you'll never get funded.